That's just a dose of the reality that we have. You have a passionate advocate from the city level. Now we have our housing court judge, Raymond L. Pianka, who has been on the forefront of this issue from the get-go. He was a council person for many years, and then he had the opportunity to run for housing court judge, and he takes it as a passion. All these issues fall right in his lap, and he doesn't have the resources to be able to help when help is necessary or try to be enforcing when enforcement is necessary. So let's give a warm welcome to Judge Raymond Pianka.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for asking the Cleveland Housing Court to appear to talk about this very important issue. This is a beautiful room, this council chamber. In fact, it's one of the most beautiful public rooms in the country. One of the finest rooms that the public can watch its business unfolding week by week. However, this room belies the devastation that the city of Cleveland and its neighborhoods and other urban areas across the country have to suffer because of the mortgage meltdown and foreclosure crisis. Mr. President, I left 220 people on my docket today to be here on the health code docket because this is a extremely important topic, and in fact, the housing court, day in and day out, has to spend its time trying to work on the direct and collateral damage that's caused by the foreclosure crisis. There has been a seismic shift in property ownership in our city, and at no time have there been more lenders as owners of properties in our city. At about 150 sheriff sales a week, most of those sheriff sales end up where the lenders take the properties back. What those lenders do with the properties can support or undo the years of efforts of the community organizations in the city of Cleveland to rebuild the city. Those lenders are not only international banks, but include HUD and Fannie Mae. I've spent 36 years working for the improvement of Cleveland's neighborhoods, 12 as judge of the Cleveland Housing Court, a unique court, a problem-solving court whose philosophy is based upon the theory of the broken window, which goes on to say that if one window in a building is broken and left unrepaired, then all the windows in that building will be broken, because that one window sends a signal that breaking windows will cost nothing to those who want to break those windows. But increasingly, we're finding that those broken windows are owned by investment banks in Hong Kong and in Frankfurt, Pasadena, and in Texas. There's not much that a neighbor can do to force an international bank or a company out of state to fix that window or rehab the house, protecting the quality of life and the property values for everyone in the neighborhood. There are three things that we have outlined that the court needs to work on to try to dig down and solve this crisis on a property-by-property, neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis. One of the things is to try to prevent foreclosures in the first place, and it's a difficult task. Just recently, a California firm was in advertising that they're going to help people just walk away from their property and their obligations of property in the city of Cleveland. In the housing court, we see thousands of homeowners and tenants ejected from their properties. Then to see those properties sit and waste away, the assets depleted, fall into ruin, stripped out, as those properties sit waiting for the investor owners to decide what to do with the properties. Then they see the properties where they have lived flipped for pennies on a dollar to investors. Doesn't it make more sense to work with the homeowners to keep in the properties, to preserve the asset? The second thing is, if we cannot save the homeownership or the tenants in the property, is to manage the foreclosure process, to try to protect the asset. Keep the property occupied. Focus on preserving the asset. If the property is vacant, then we must move swiftly to move that property to a beneficial owner. The Property owners must monitor the condition of the property to prevent waste, not only to that property, but the waste that occurs as it is in a pre-sheriff sale state. The third thing is to move that property on to beneficial owners. Why, file the deed so we know who the owners are. Sell the responsible owners, beneficial owners, not owners who are going to flip the property to start that cycle over and over again. Investment banks and owners must respect the law. For some reason, some have the idea that they can take ownership of a property, legal title ownership, hold it in a deteriorated state, and flip it without repair. And I guess they think that because they've been successful on that in the past. There are elderly owners and other owners that are summoned into housing court required to repair the property that they own. Why should not international investment banks have the same obligation or standard? Repair the property that you own. The court has had to modify its procedures to address owners who fail to come into court to address alleged code violations when summoned. And in fact, we've had to stop their evictions. They want to use the civil side of the court to evict tenants and owners out of properties, but yet try to ignore the criminal side of the court for alleged code violations. 6 months ago, we didn't have a docket, clean hands docket. Now, our courtroom is filled with lenders' attorneys every week who have had their eviction stopped because they failed to come in and answer warrants that we have for alleged code violations. Now, some don't come to court at all. They ignore the court. They ignore the summons when they're properly served and ordered to come into court. And we had to uncover a 1953 state statute that said that the court can proceed without them. If they are summoned, they're notified to be in court, they fail to come in, we can have a trial in absentia. And it used to be once a month we have trial in absentias. Now we have it twice a month. And those owners who fail to come into court, fail to come into Cleveland, who own properties in Cleveland, are surprised to find out that they're fined in housing court. Those fines are converted to civil judgment, and their bank accounts are empty throughout the country as they're swept by the debt collector hired by the law director and the clerk. Banks and other lenders must be required to work through toxic title issues, following through with foreclosures, or releasing their liens. Let that property go if you don't want that property, to permit these properties to move to beneficial owners. Finally, federal regulation and federal dollars for prevention and cleanup programs are necessary to reverse the damage that has already occurred and to prevent further injury to the community. National investment policies, not city investment policies, national investment policies, the Federal Reserve Bank got us here, and now they need to step in and address it. We spend our days, day in and day out, working on the direct and collateral damage of the foreclosure crisis. As judge of the housing court, I now long for the day when I have an owner-occupant, not in foreclosure, that has a gutter that needs repaired or needs to have the trim on their house painted. Gee, those were the good old days. Thank you.